Welcome to This Explainer. For decades, India has been absolutely crushing it when it comes to building combat aircraft, missiles, warships, and even nuclear submarines. But if you look closely, there's always been one massive missing piece to the puzzle: a modern, high-thrust, completely indigenous jet engine. So that brings us to a huge question today. On August 14th, 2026, a really massive announcement totally shook up the defense world. We saw a declaration of strategic intent between the Indian industrial giant Reliance Industries and the British aerospace titan Rolls-Royce. So we have to ask, could this private-public mega-alliance finally be the key to unlocking the sovereign fighter engine capability India has been chasing for literally over half a century? Let's dive in and find out. But to really get why this partnership matters so much, we first have to look at the actual jet this engine is meant for. It's called the AMCA, or the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. This thing is a 25-ton, fifth-generation stealth fighter that is slated to eventually form the absolute backbone of the Indian Air Force. We're talking internal weapons bays, special radar-absorbing materials, and these serpentine air intakes designed to make it practically invisible to enemy radar. It's incredible. Here's the catch, though. A cutting-edge stealth fighter is basically just a really, really expensive glider without a world-class engine pushing it. The MCA requires a massive jump in power, and it's actually going to be developed in two phases. The initial Mark I variant is going to use America's proven General Electric F414 engine, which punches out about 98 kilonewtons of thrust. But the truly advanced Mark II, the version that needs to sustain supersonic flight without gulping down fuel through afterburners, that version absolutely requires a much more powerful engine, right in the 110 to 130 kilonewton thrust class. And India wants to build this incredibly powerful engine domestically. Now you might be wondering, why does India even need a foreign partner to develop this Mark II engine? Well, we have to rewind through a few decades of engineering struggles to understand that. Designing a jet engine is notoriously one of the absolute hardest engineering feats on the planet. India's very first indigenous fighter back in the 1960s, the HF-24 Marut, completely failed to reach its supersonic potential purely because it didn't have an adequate engine. Then in 1986, India launched this hugely ambitious Kaveri program to power its light combat aircraft, the Tejas. But despite decades of really hard work, by 2008, the Kaveri was officially dropped from the Tejas program. And there is one number that brilliantly illustrates exactly why that happened: 70.4. See, the Kaveri engine was supposed to deliver 81 kilonewtons of wet thrust, which is its maximum power when using fuel-guzzling afterburners. Instead, it only managed 70.4. It suffered a staggering 642% cost overrun and a painful 13-year delay before being pulled. The harsh reality here was that India had built a highly competitive fighter airframe, but they just didn't have the indigenous engine to actually drive it. So this history of setbacks is exactly why India is now drawing a very hard line. They are strictly demanding what military planners call sovereign capability from any foreign partner. And that doesn't just mean bolting together foreign parts in a local factory. It means complete ownership of the intellectual property, the IP. It means the critical know-how and the know-why are entirely transferred to India. This ensures domestic control over future upgrades and, most importantly, prevents a nightmare scenario where a foreign government suddenly blocks engine exports just because global geopolitics shifted. Man, this strict demand for total IP ownership has kicked off an incredibly intense, high-stakes bidding war between two global aviation titans, France's Safran and the United Kingdom's Rolls-Royce. Both of these companies know for a fact that whoever wins this contract essentially locks in a generational partnership with one of the world's absolute largest defense markets. First up, you've got Safran pushing a seriously strong proposal. Their pitch is heavily based on technology derived from their already highly successful M88 engine. They are out there promising 100% technology transfer and absolutely zero export restrictions. And Safran has a massive built-in advantage here. The Indian Air Force already operates a fleet of French Rafale fighters powered by those exact M88 engines. That gives them immense institutional familiarity and an ecosystem that's already humming along in India. But then, on the flip side, Rolls-Royce has countered with a remarkably compelling offer of their own. They aren't just offering a derivative of some older engine. No, they are offering to co-develop an entirely new clean sheet engine from scratch, designed specifically for the AMCA. They're offering full IP ownership for India, and this whole proposal is backed directly by the UK government under their Defence Partnership India initiative. But to pull off a true clean sheet design in India, Rolls-Royce knew they needed a massive local partner. Which brings us right back perfectly to that August 2026 announcement. This is exactly why Rolls-Royce just teamed up with Reliance Industries. You see, capturing true sovereign capability isn't just a foreign company handing over a stack of blueprints. It requires immense domestic industrial muscle to actually execute on those blueprints. As Anand Ambani, the executive director of Reliance Industries, put it perfectly, India's strategic autonomy requires sovereign capability in critical technologies. So how do they actually plan to achieve this? The physical mechanism they want to build is a proposed aerospace gas turbine complex. Now, this wouldn't just be some standard factory floor. It's envisioned as a completely end-to-end local ecosystem right there on Indian soil. We're talking about a facility that would handle the initial design phase, the incredibly complex testing protocols, the precision manufacturing, and finally, the long-term maintenance and lifecycle support of the engines, the whole shebang. But why does Rolls-Royce need Reliance specifically? Well, it basically boils down to one very big number, $5.2 billion. The former DRDO chief, Samir V. Kamat, estimated that developing an engine of this class from scratch could cost up to 50,000 crore rupees, or about $5.2 billion over several years. A huge chunk of that money goes purely into building the complex testing and industrial infrastructure that India currently just doesn't have. This staggering price tag highlights exactly why a heavyweight financial and industrial partner like Reliance is absolutely necessary. Actually, scratch that, it's not just about the money. Reliance isn't just bringing deep pockets to fund this. Building a jet engine means operating at the absolute extremes of physics and metallurgy. Yes, Reliance brings massive corporate scale and project execution power, but crucially, they also bring deep expertise in advanced materials, like carbon fiber. These material sciences are exactly what you need to tackle the highly precise, zero-margin-for-error manufacturing required for modern turbofan blades that literally have to survive inside a jet engine inferno. Rolls-Royce's CEO, Tufan Ergin-Bilgic, really hit the nail on the head when he called this partnership a major milestone towards building a robust, self-reliant aerospace ecosystem. An ecosystem is for sure the key word there. This partnership is clearly designed to create a self-sustaining industrial base. If it actually works, the capabilities they develop at this complex could eventually expand way beyond just military jets, bleeding into civil aerospace and advanced propulsion tech for decades. Now, hold on just a second, because we do need to pause and be really clear about the current reality here. While this alliance between Reliance and Rolls-Royce is undeniably powerful, right now, it is currently just a declaration of strategic intent. It is not a finalized joint venture, and most importantly, the Indian government has not yet made its official final engine selection. Safran is still very much in the running, and this competition remains incredibly fierce. But if Rolls-Royce and Reliance do manage to win this contract, well, they've projected a pretty grueling, decade-long road ahead of them. Starting from this intent signed in 2026, they're targeting actual engine ground tests by 2032 and aiming to achieve a first flight of this new engine by 2034. It's a marathon, not a sprint, which just goes to show how mind-bendingly complex engine development truly is. So as we wrap up this explainer, let's just step back and look at the big picture. The AMCA engine is arguably one of the most important technology projects in India's entire aerospace history. It's literally going to define whether India remains dependent on foreign powers for its defense, or if it finally achieves true strategic autonomy. So I leave you with this to ponder. With a $5.2 billion price tag and the ghost of past engineering hurdles still looming, is this massive private-public alliance between Reliance and Rolls-Royce finally the silver bullet that will unlock India's aerospace future? Let that sink in. Thanks for joining me. Keep learning and keep exploring.